Okay, Dan, there you go.
Thank you, Mary Jean. I'm going to take a minute and or two, 10, to talk about myself and my involvement. I had a spiritual awakening 44 years ago last July. So in 1977, July 25th, 1977, I came to a new understanding of life. In fact, that day, I actually believe that I totally died to the world spiritually, but that I awoke in the kingdom of heaven. And I've spent the last 44 years learning how to live in the kingdom and how to acquire the kingdom. And perhaps today, by the time we're finished, you may have some idea of how that may work. With me, it was seemed like a very sudden happening. I was at a church campground that I never planned to be at. I was spoken to directly by the speaker, who claimed the message was directly from the Father. And I can't say that I actually understood that or believed it at the time, but I knew that something had happened to me. There was a physical feeling inside. I was not myself and didn't understand anything. I understand a little bit more now, but I'm sure that I still understand only a small portion of what the kingdom of God is like. But the Course says that the kingdom of heaven, it describes it in short form in the front of the book. It says that this is what this book is about, and it's about 1,300 pages or nearly. And it says that nothing real can be threatened. It also says that nothing unreal exists. And what that means for me is that the kingdom of heaven cannot be threatened. And that means that if there's nothing unreal that exists, then there is just the kingdom of heaven. There's nothing else. And that's the theme that I've tried to live my life by, or I'm trying to. And all of this is relatively new to me, or at least the thoughts about how to explain it to other people. So because evidently there were not many that believed what Jesus said about the kingdom. He made it and he told the truth, and it was very simple. According to the New Testament, he just simply told everyone that the kingdom of heaven was within them, and that if they wanted to know what it was about, that they should seek first in their lives that kingdom, and it would be given them. As so long as they sought the kingdom and all of its righteousness, then everything else would be given unto them. That's the truth for me. That's what the Course teaches. It takes a lot of pages to teach it, but that's really the essence of what I'm here for. What I'm here to talk about is the actual existence of the kingdom of heaven functioning perfectly today on earth as it does in heaven. And so, having said that, I again want to encourage you, if you question anything or hear anything that presents a question to you, please interrupt me or make a quick note of it and ask me later. But I'd be much happier if you had the courage, because there's no wrong answers and there's no embarrassing answers when it comes to the kingdom of heaven. The actual fuel that the kingdom of heaven burns or lives on or exists on is very simply love itself. Just love. And as you get into the Course studies, if and when you take it up and pursue it, that's what you'll be taught. That there is nothing in existence, like the Course says, nothing real can be threatened. So nothing in existence can argue with love. There's never an argument. Most of us do not understand what love is, but it is in effect the kingdom of heaven. And that's the fuel, that's what ignites within us as we begin to share the miracles that are evident in the kingdom. Because in the kingdom itself, we cannot be hurt in any way. We can't be harmed. We can't be addressed in any way that can hurt us because of the love of the Father for us. That love is unlimited, and the kingdom itself is totally unlimited. As much as we can imagine the love of God and how it can affect our lives, it's only touching on the outside of the love, the quantity of love that's available, which means everything on earth that is created by God cannot be challenged, and it can't ever be changed. Like God himself does not change, your miracle cannot change. But our perception of that miracle can change. And so based on that, I'm going to, last time I spoke, we talked about the manual for teachers, and we talked about who are God's teachers. Who are they? In other words, who am I? Who is Johan or Mary Jean? Or even yourself, because we're always teaching. We're teaching either love or we're teaching the opposite. And there is no in between. Either we learn to teach from love because we are love. And when we do that, we are in the kingdom, existing as God would have us exist. Today, we're going to talk about who are their pupils, which would be, I guess, all of you people. So I'm going to read a little bit. Feel free to stop me anywhere and ask questions. Don't be shy or bashful. Certain pupils have been assigned to each of God's teachers, and they will begin to look for him as soon as he has answered the call, meaning the teacher. When the teacher answers the call, the pupils will begin to appear. They were chosen for him because the form of the universal curriculum that he will teach is best for them in view of their level of understanding. His pupils have been waiting for him, for his coming is certain. Again, it is only a matter of time. And once he has chosen to fulfill his role, the teacher, they, the pupils, are ready to fulfill theirs. Time waits on his choice, meaning the teacher, but not on whom he will serve. So I can't decide who's going to be the successful learner or who is not. And it talks about learning and how we learn as it goes on. Time waits on his choice, but not on whom he will serve. When he is ready to learn, meaning when I am ready to learn, the opportunities to teach will be provided for him. In order to understand the teaching learning plan of salvation, because that's really what we're here for, is to uncover salvation, which everyone has, but we're just not yet fully aware of. It's like the salvation is effectively the kingdom of heaven. It's learned through learning how to forgive and what forgiveness really is, and what's meant by that forgiveness. It is necessary then to grasp the concept of time that the course sets forth. The atonement, and atonement is another word for kingdom. It's another word for freedom. It's another word for salvation. It's another word for forgiveness and for acceptance. So the atonement corrects illusions, and that is the miracle. It corrects what is not true. An illusion is just that. It's an untruth. It's a misperception or a misunderstanding. So that's what the atonement has already corrected. Therefore, it corrects what never was. If it's an illusion, It simply is not. Illusions are not real. They're imaginings or they're dreams. It's our perception of projecting what we think we would like to be real, and that's the other side of it. In the kingdom, we already have what's real, and that is everything. So, in order to understand the teaching learning plan of salvation, it is necessary to grasp the concept of time that the Course sets forth. Atonement corrects illusions, not truth. Therefore, it corrects what never was. Further, the plan for this correction was established and completed simultaneously. For the will of God is entirely apart from time. So God is eternal. All of God's creations are eternal. There is no death. We do not die. Our bodies do, but our bodies are, according to the Course, not real anyway. They never were. We think they're real because we actually made our bodies. I know this is pretty deep and may be difficult to understand, but please, again, feel free to ask or to stop me, or maybe I can explain it that would make it easier. So the correction then of the error, and I'm going to talk for a second about the error because there's only one error in that resulted or came from the kingdom of heaven. And the error is always the same. If we know what the error is, then we have the answer to any problem that confronts us, whatever that is. The error is simply our belief that we are separate from God. Everybody generally thinks that we're separate from God. Of course, we're taught that from the beginning. So it's not surprising that we actually think we're separate. We cannot be separate. That's the atonement. It's a fixed eternal life in the kingdom that we are now living. And we are in a dream. The things of the world, beautiful homes, the Charles Atlas type husband, for example, or boyfriend, or a new car. All of these things we have dreamed. They are not reality. Reality is only love, and the kingdom extends to others as we extend it as love, as acceptance of them wherever they are. When God accepted me 44 years ago, he didn't make any demand on me. He didn't say, look, go out and clean up your act, change, and then when you're deserving of it, come back and see me and maybe I'll let you in. It wasn't a deal like that at all. It was just, hey, I love you. You are my son. And you're welcome in my home. And I and yours. You are me and I am you, and we will be one for eternity. And at that time, I was actually aware and knew that if I was good enough for God to accept as one of his disciples or his friend, then everyone in the world was. And there's lots of things that I wasn't guilty of. I didn't physically murder anybody or rape anybody or the terrible, disastrous things that we do. I didn't set any bombs off or anything like that. I was a fairly well-respected businessman, but I was like everybody else. If I thought, a little white lie would help someone out or help me out, I wasn't, I guess I used them like everybody else does. So I was a pretty ordinary, simple guy in reality. I had faults like everybody else that my father never saw. He still doesn't see me with any faults. He doesn't see any of you with any faults. It's like when it comes to errors or mistakes or what the world calls sin, our God is deaf, dumb, and blind. He does not see us at the sin. He doesn't bother tripping over silly mistakes that we make in our daily relationships with other people. So in
Dan,
yes,
that
no?
alone is, a huge concept for us to get, because we see our faults for sure, and we tend to focus in on those and think, how could God or anybody get past those faults in us? So, this idea of a creator, the universe, whatever you want to call God, that can overlook all of those sorts of things is, astounding, I guess, to the human mind sometimes.
Thank you, Mary Jean. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts along those lines? No? How do you like this God so far? How's he doing?
Yeah.
I like him.
He's doing great. It's me that's not doing so great. I keep tripping up, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think the God is doing great.
Yes, he is. And I too, I still make mistakes. I make lots of them. But he does not see them. In his mind, they don't happen. He once shared with me that when he made me, that means you, he made me in his image. And he said that if I was made in his image and if he was perfect, then I am perfect. And I cannot change that. I don't have the power to change it, because what God creates is eternal. It's forever with no conditions. None. We just are perfect in his eyes. We are his children. And Jesus tells us in the New Testament that we are equal, that there's no difference between him and you or him and me, that we are all children or sons of God. I think Jesus used the term adopted into the family of God. But we're given all of God's power, and he has given us sufficient power to overcome the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to overcome some of the things that I see on television that I have the power to overcome, and I do overcome them on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis. I'm not happy about certain political situations. I'm not happy about the COVID situation. I'm not happy about all these other things that the world says are real. My father says that they do not exist, that they are not real. So that all that is left, if they're not real and all that nonsense is not real, then we have nothing but love left. That's God. And that's us. That's who we are. So back to the book. So then is all reality, or all of the kingdom of heaven being of him. The instant the idea of separation entered the mind of God's Son, in that same instant was God's answer given. So what he said was, in that instant, this is not true. You go ahead. You can think that you can dream away from me and dream that you're separate from me. You can do all the things that you want to do in that world of a dream that has no reality. That world has no kingdom of heaven. This world that he opened the gate for us to be returned on, is love. It's forgiveness. It's everlasting freedom, eternal life. So that's what the atonement is. In time, this happened very long ago. In reality, it never happened at all. In reality, or in the kingdom of heaven. Remember I said, if you could think of reality always as the kingdom of heaven. So in reality, or in the kingdom of heaven, it never happened at all. The world of time is the world of illusion, falsehoods. It's not true. It's like when we go to bed at night and we have a dream. Some of them are great dreams. Some aren't so great. But it's still a dream. When we wake up in the morning and our dream is completed or finished, or it finishes as we wake up, or however that happens, we know it's a dream. We're not shocked by it. And we just fluff it off and say, oh, just another dream. And we go about our daily chores and daily efforts. But the fact is that that's what really happens when we accept the possibility or hope that the possibility of what I'm telling you today, that there is just the kingdom of heaven, that there is nothing else. When we begin to think about the possibilities of that, that's what sets us free. We no longer have to worry about anything because nothing can harm us. Nothing. We cannot die. We do not die. Jesus said that the last enemy to be trod under the feet of Christ is death. So we can't even get sick. We can't be sick. We can, though, dream that we're sick. We can dream so much in a dream that we're sick that we can actually kill the so-called life of the body. And that's what we go through that unreal world doing day in, day out, essentially. So the world of time is the world of illusion or the false world. It is not. What happened long ago seems or appears to be happening now. Courses made long since appear to be open, yet to be made. What has been learned and understood and long ago passed by is looked upon as a new thought, a fresh idea, a different approach. And maybe that's what we're hearing a little bit about today. A different idea, a different way to live our life, a different way to be free from the worries and fears of the world that we've created. Because your will is free, you can accept what has already happened at any time you choose. Meaning, we chose to come here. We chose to think that we were separate from God. We have the right then and the power to change our minds and say, you know what? Maybe I could love that God that this man says is real. Perhaps there really is a God. When we begin to think those thoughts, it's all on the table. And we have the power then to choose and then to realize that it was always there. In other words, this kingdom, this free way of living, this walking around knowing that I can't be harmed, that my Father just won't allow it. It can't happen. I'm free and I live in that kingdom. I walk in it. I live and breathe the air of God himself because that's all there is for me. I don't want anything else. I had the other lifestyle. I didn't like it and I'm not going back. It's hell on earth, trying to live up to all the expectations of everything out there. I will never give up what I have, the freedom I have. And I suspect, in fact, I know that at some point in time, everyone who has ever drawn a breath here on this earth will find that same freedom, that we'll all recognize that we are just one, that there isn't two of us or four of us or 7 billion of us. There is just one spirit. That spirit is love. That spirit is God. And we are one in him and he is one in us. And in that sense, we can be free. Never to worry, doubt, fear, or again. We have the power. As the Course emphasizes, we're not free to choose the curriculum or even the form in which we will learn it. You are free, however, to decide when you want to learn it, but you will learn it. And as you accept it, it is already learned. As we accept it, it's already learned. And that's what I said a while back when I had that experience 44 years ago. I knew then that if I was acceptable to God in his kingdom, then everyone had to be, everybody, because no sin is greater than another. No error is bigger than another. Love is all there really is. So time really then appears to go backward to an instant so ancient that it is beyond all memory and past even the possibility of remembering. Yet, because it is an instant that is relived again and again and still again, it seems, or it appears to be, right now. And thus it is that the pupil and the teacher seem or appear to come together in the present, today, right now, in this instant, finding each other as if they had not met before. The pupil comes at the right time to the right place. This is inevitable because he made the right choice in that ancient instant eons ago, which he now relives. So has the teacher too then made an inevitable choice out of an ancient past. You know, in John, I think he says that in the beginning we were. In the beginning, the Word was, and has always been, and will always be. And that in itself is another description for the kingdom of heaven, because we are the Word. We're the actual Word. We are the lifeblood of God's expansion here with His own creations. So God's will in everything, but seems, or it seems and appears to take time in the working out. What on earth could delay the power of eternity? I can't imagine what could delay the power of eternity. It can't be done. When the pupil and the teacher come together, a teaching learning situation begins. For the teacher is not really the one who does the teaching. God's teacher speaks to any two who join together for learning purposes. The relationship is holy because of that purpose. And God has promised to send His Spirit into any holy relationship. In the teaching learning situation, each one learns that giving and receiving are the same. The demarcations they have drawn between their roles and in their minds and in their bodies, their needs, their interests, and all the differences they thought separated them from one another begin to fade and grow dim and will disappear. Those who would learn the same course share one interest, just one, and one goal. And thus he who was the learner becomes a teacher of God Himself. For he has made the one decision that gave his teacher to him. He has seen in another person the same interests as his own. And I like to say to people and remind them that if we all sat down, I think we could do it right here. There's a handful of us anyway. If we all told the truth about what it is that we really want, or what it is we're searching for here on earth, it's a sense of security. We all want to know and understand this heaven that we live in, that we don't see with our human eyes. The only way we can see it is with the vision of God. So, but the truth is that everybody on the face of the earth is searching for the same thing. We're all searching for the source of happiness. Sometimes we think it's a new TV set or a new home, or we repaint the old home and it looks good again. And we think that's going to make us happy. And it does for a day or two or an hour. But in reality, that home 100 years from now or 200 years from now is going to return to dust from whence it came. So the only thing that is worthwhile that we're all searching for is eternal love. Love of each other, love of our God, our Father, love of our neighbor, love of anything and everything that was created spiritually by our Father. We're identical. We are not different. We are all the same and we are all one. It doesn't matter what color we are. It doesn't matter what church we go to. it doesn't, nothing matters. And when you think about it, there's over 4,000 denominations of Christianity registered in the United States. Um, if they all had the truth, there wouldn't be 4,000, or how many would there be? Just one. And there is just one. There's just one kingdom. We all are in it, all share in it, all love it when they discover it. And I hope that in some way we're discovering some of it today, or portions of it. Any thoughts or questions up to now? How's God doing? How's he making out? Is he there with you?
Lots of things to think about there. I've been following along as you're reading, and you said a sense of security, and then you followed it up. It's really that all we want is a sense of being loved and unconditionally loved, and realizing that we are, and that's the awakening. And the teacher teaches and the pupil learns, and we both come to recognize that God, the creator, is in each of us. And if we speak to that from love and strength, the illusion falls away, and any form that we live in, like the earth, or all the insanity, the apparent sanity of it, falls away, and we can see God's plan, rather, because he is in us, and we are not projecting, we are extending that out to the world. And we can do that from what is more powerful than God and then creation itself. Those are just some of the thoughts that I went through while you were speaking, Dan. And you have a powerful testimony, and I really appreciate it. It comes across very strong. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John. Yours is as strong. I've heard you, and I love you. These other folks are going to have at some point in time in their future that same voice that resonates with the kingdom, and that's God's promise. Like, he has guaranteed our delivery from the illusion of the world into the safety and the love of the kingdom that is him and is his, and it is us. And we have the same power. God has given us all of his power to overcome the world. It's unlimited. And that's what Jesus spoke of on the hillsides way back in those days when he was here. And he promised them exactly what I'm promising you today. The promise is not changed. The promise is eternal. It cannot fail. It's exactly what we are and who we are and where we're going. Jesus explained this in terms that, well, a lot of people understood, and a lot of people grabbed on and said, you know what, even if he's not telling the truth, even if he's misrepresenting it a little bit, it sounds like a better way to live my life. I think I'm going to give it a try. And so they did, thousands of them. But on the other hand, there were many more who did not hear. Their ears weren't yet open. Their eyes couldn't see. They didn't have the vision of the kingdom, the vision of the Christ, because they just weren't ready. And that's not a problem. God is not an impatient God. In fact, I think he says that infinity or love of the kingdom is simply to have the patience. To have infinite patience brings immediate results. But infinity appears to be a long time in the sense of time. But in the kingdom, there is no time. It's eternal. Time has no effect in the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. And so they nailed him up. They went and got the tree and hung him on it. And what did it accomplish in the end? Nothing. It had no effect on Jesus. He's kept right on going. 2,000 years later, speaks today to you in your heart, from his heart, because your heart and his heart are one. And so that is the guarantee. It's the delivery that everyone is going to receive if they have not yet already. If you haven't heard it before, and I'm sure you have in somewhere, some way, everyone is expressing hope for the kingdom of heaven. So we've all heard it, but few have elected to act on it. And the choice is always ours. God will never rush us. It's his promise is eternal. It's good forever. You have salvation. You have the atonement. There's absolutely no question or doubt about that in my mind. I could not sit here and share this with you if I didn't believe it. I believe it. And I do my best to live it. I still make mistakes, but it matters not, because my Father does not see any imperfection in any of us, ever. It's like his eyes and mind is closed to that and said, if he made us perfect, we are perfect. We do not have the power to change it. And we are made in his image. So folks, that's kind of where we are, except I guess I could go on. Do you have questions about anything so far?
I just wanted to make sure that I understand. When you say we're going to overcome the world, what you mean is how we view the world and how we feel about the world. Is that right?
That's right.
In other words, go ahead.
We have the power to change the illusion into reality. Or we have the power to change the illusion of the world into the kingdom of heaven. I really like the thought that whenever we hear or see the word reality, it's just another word for the kingdom. It's a word for the kingdom of heaven. And that is the only reality. There is no other. The rest is pure illusion.
Just, growing up, I always felt like the kingdom was, up in the clouds, or maybe beyond the clouds, but somewhere else, instead of right where I live and exactly what I'm doing in every moment. It's simply how I feel about what I'm doing in every moment, whether I'm in the kingdom or not, back in the world.
Yeah.
I shift back and forth a lot, but I'm working on shifting more to being in the kingdom than not. So, because I want to live in joy. I mean, that's my only real motivation. It's completely selfish. And I love that. God wants us to be selfish, because it just means I want to be happy and live in joy. And this is the only way, because nothing else makes sense.
Yeah, that's correct. And all that we really discover is that there is no such thing as sacrifice. The church that I was raised in, they used to tell stories of how the people sacrificed everything for the building of a church, or the expanding of a small group to a bigger group. They gave all in terms of the world, but we cannot give what isn't real. We can imagine we give, but when we give, whether it's monetary or in whatever way, if we consider it a sacrifice, then it's not real. It never was real. It's kind of hard to grasp, but if you can live in the hope that it be true, you're venturing into the kingdom, and you cannot fail. It's impossible. It can't fail. It will not fail.
But also, I think that what I'm picking up from reading the Course is that that God wants us to be in joy, first of all, and that being in joy means that it spills over into the rest of our life, which is the miracle of changing the world. You change what's going on around you and beyond you, even by the joy that spills over.
That's it. That's the miracle, a change of mind, a different way to look at it. We're still here, all of us are, we believe we're still here in this world of illusion. And we'll be here as long as we choose to remain here. Yes, we will appear to get sick, we'll appear to die, we'll appear to return to dust from which we were made, that we made ourselves. But it means nothing. The reality is that we made an agreement with our Father eons ago. In the beginning, we were with him, and we cannot ever be without him, and we will always be safe.
And you mentioned generosity earlier, and that's in a couple chapters further, in chapter 5 there. And there's a section on generosity. And I like the line there. It says, to the world, generosity means giving away. You're sacrificing, you're losing something in the sense of giving up. And to the teachers of God and the pupils, it means giving away in order to keep. You cannot lose anything that has the power of love in it. In actual fact, you have to give love to get love.
To get
So
love.
exactly. That's the kind of way it looks at it. Yeah. You give away in order to keep. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. The Course teaches that having and being are the same. We couldn't give anything away if we didn't have it. I can't give the kingdom away unless I have it, but I have it. So if I hand it to you and give it to you, like Jesus did and said, hey, it's yours, here, take it, it's in you. You live in the kingdom, believe it. That's all that's required. The rest doesn't matter.
Yeah, it expands. It doesn't, that giving, that generosity, that love.
Yeah, it just keeps growing. It's really wonderful. The next is on what are the levels of teaching. Maybe we can do a paragraph there before we close, unless there's more that I need to talk about that you're aware of. So the teachers, which all of you are now, you're either going to teach for God the good, or we'll be teaching the dark side of something somewhere, or part of an illusion of something somewhere. So the teachers of God have no set teaching level. Each teaching learning situation involves a different relationship at the beginning, although the ultimate goal is always the same, the kingdom. To make of the relationship a holy relationship in which both can look upon the Son of God as sinless. That's what we need to understand, that if God treats us as sinless, then our job is to treat our neighbor as sinless, to love him exactly where he is. We don't have the right to demand he change. We just have the right to accept him and bring him into the kingdom. There is no one from whom a teacher of God cannot learn. So then there is no one whom he cannot teach. However, from a practical point of view, he cannot meet everyone, nor can everyone find him. Therefore, the plan includes very specific contact to be made for each teacher of God. There are no accidents in salvation. Those who are to meet will meet, because together they have the potential for a holy relationship. They are ready for each other. Salvation, I'm told, is very simple. Salvation is simply grace plus grace plus grace plus grace. It's very simple. Just extending the love of the kingdom. That's it. And the simplest level of teaching appears to be quite superficial. It consists of what seem to be very casual encounters or a chance meeting of two apparent strangers in an elevator, or a child who is not looking where he's going, where he's running, and runs into an adult by chance, of course. Two students happening to walk home together. These are not chance encounters. Each of them has the potential for becoming a teaching, learning situation. Perhaps the seeming strangers in the elevator will smile one to another. Perhaps the adult will not scold the child for bumping into him. Perhaps the students will become friends. Even at the level of the most casual encounter, it is possible for two people to lose sight of separate interests. If only for a moment, that moment will be enough. Salvation has come. It's difficult to understand that levels of teaching the universal course is a concept as meaningless in reality or in the kingdom as is time. The illusion of one permits the illusion of the other. In time, the teacher of God seems to begin to change his mind about the world with one single decision, and then learns more and more about the new direction as he teaches it. We have covered the illusion of time already, but the illusion of levels of teaching seems to be something different. Perhaps the best way to demonstrate that these levels cannot exist is simply to say that any level of the teaching learning situation is part of God's plan for atonement. And his plan can have no levels, being a reflection of his will. Salvation is always ready and always there. God's teachers work at different levels, but the result is always the same. We end up in the kingdom of heaven, momentarily, hourly, daily. When we come to realize that and understand that there's not two powers, there's just one power, and that power that God has given us is fueled by love always, and he never runs out of fuel. It just refuels. We give away love and we get more love. We give away more love, we get more and more and more love. It just keeps flowing. It's a one-way street. It's not like the power that we know with our car battery, where you got to have a positive and a negative. In the kingdom of heaven, a negative cannot exist. There is none. There's no room for ego or egoic thoughts. They're not there. If we're having those, we just stepped out of the gate, back outside into the illusion of the world that is not real. But we have the right to remain in the kingdom. And that's the power to overcome the world. And perhaps I just need to open it up where anybody can give me their impression of whatever. We can't leave the kingdom. We can only think we can.
It's beautiful, and it's just so hopeful because we all have the ability to live completely in joy. And God is love. God is not the God who creates COVID and all these other things. That's not God. So that's how you judge everything, right? Does it bring joy? Does it bring joy? And is it filled with love? And we all know how to figure that out. So you know immediately, is it God or isn't it? It's just so hopeful. It's the first thing ever in my entire life that, or all my lives or whatever, that has given me complete hope and joy. I didn't know it was possible. So thank you. You're really great at explaining this.
No, if anything great happens, it's not me, it's my father. If anything ungreat happens, it may be me.
Yes, but you are your father.
But I am my father, that's right. So I try not to do those things that are not great. I guess the easy thing for me is to remember that anything in the world that is not unchangeable, meaning if something is going to change, it is not of God. God does not change. We cannot change. We can only think that we can change. And that's how I sort out the real from the unreal. And I know that the unreal doesn't exist. It just simply is a falsehood, an illusion. So anything that's going to change, no matter what it is not of God. He did not create that. That's not his creation. All his creations are eternal. They cannot change. They will not change. But they'll think they change. That's the miracle. So Mary Jane, I'll turn it back over to you. And if there are no other questions, or I'm going to be here for a little bit. If anybody has anything, they're most welcome. If anybody wants to contact me directly, I'm happy to give you my phone number or my